Hello, I really hope to hear some advice in the comments. My name is Mark. I am 38 years old. My wife, well, until recently my wife, Rachel, 35, and I had been together for 12 years, 9 of which we were married. We didn't have children, just the two of us and the life I thought we had built together. I work as a project manager for a logistics company, which means I travel a lot, sometimes for weeks at a time. Rachel worked from home as a freelance consultant, her words, and managed all our accounts, savings, mortgage, basically everything that wasn't my responsibility. I trusted her completely in this regard. And for many years, everything seemed fine. We had our rhythm. I would fly away. She would send me little updates about the garden, Marley, our golden retriever, what she was cooking for dinner. I would come back. We had our little rituals, movie nights, wine on Fridays, lazy Sundays. But now, looking back, I can see that the cracks started to appear a few months ago. She became more distant, even when I was home, always busy with work that I never understood. Our conversations became shorter. Her phone lay face down on the table. If I asked what she was doing, she rolled her eyes and said I was paranoid. Most importantly, she stopped meeting me at the airport when I returned from trips. She said it was a waste of gas, or that she was too busy, or, my favorite, that we're not a couple from a romantic comedy who need grand gestures. I didn't insist. I told myself that marriages have their ups and downs, that she just had a lot on her plate. But my last trip was only supposed to last for days, just a job in Chicago. She didn't know I was coming home a day early. I decided to surprise her, maybe take her to the new Italian restaurant she'd been talking about. Instead, I came home to a locked door and a life that had been destroyed without me. The key turned in my fingers, but it stopped dead in the lock. I jiggled it, tried again, pressed my shoulder against the door like maybe it was just stuck. Nothing. I bent down and looked at the lock closely. The metal was new, shiny, different from the one I'd locked just 4 days ago. My first thought wasn't betrayal, it was confusion. Maybe we had a break-in. Maybe Rachel changed the locks for safety. I knocked. Nothing. Knocked again. Harder. Rachel, it's me. Open up. Silence. I stepped back, scanning the house from the outside. It looked the ceramic curtains in the windows, flowers still hanging in baskets on the porch, but something felt wrong. The blinds in the living room were tilted differently, and there was no Marley in the window. Marley always came running when he heard my car. I called her cell, straight to voicemail. I called again, then a third time. Same thing. That's when Mrs. Dalton, our neighbor from across the street, came out to water her plants. She saw me standing there with my suitcase and said, "Oh, you're back early." I tried to smile. "Yeah, surprise trip home." But Rachel's not answering, and my key isn't working. Did something happen? Her expression changed subtle, but enough for my stomach to tighten. "Oh, I thought you knew." "Knew what?" "Well," she said, lowering her voice, "there were movers here, too. Maybe 3 days ago. Big truck. They were in and out all day. Looked like they took everything. I thought you'd be with them." It felt like someone had poured ice water down my spine. "Everything?" I asked. "Everything," she repeated. "Furniture, boxes, even that big espresso machine you joked about." She hesitated. "And the dog." She left with the dog. I don't remember what I said back. I think I mumbled thanks and walked quickly to my car. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone trying to open my banking app. The numbers glared back at me. Checking, $0, 00. Savings, $0, 00. Even the small, rainy day account we barely touched empty. I refreshed the app, praying it was some kind of glitch. Same result. I checked my credit cards, maxed all of them. That's when the reality hit me. She hadn't just left. She hadn't just taken the furniture. She had gutted everything, her accounts, our home, even the dog in time, that so I would know until it was too late to stop her. I sat her there in my car, staring at the lock on the front door like it was mocking me. And for days, while I was shaking hands in conference rooms and eating takeout in a hotel, my life had been stolen out from under me. No note, no call, No warning. Just a stranger's lock on what used to be my home. I didn't drive anywhere right away. I just sat in the car across the street, engine off, phone in my lap, staring at that new lock like maybe if I looked long enough, the whole thing would rewind. After 20 minutes of trying to steady my breathing, I started dialing. First, Rachel's phone, straight to voicemail again. Then her work number, disconnected. Then her email. I fired off a single line, call me immediately. No response. I scrolled through my contacts until I landed on Jenna, her younger sister. If anyone knew what was going on, it would be her. I call. She picked up on the second ring. Hey, Mark, you're back already. My voice was tight. Jenna, where's Rachel? A pause. Why? Because I just got home and the locks are changed. The house is empty. The bank accounts are empty. And Marley's gone. She didn't speak for a few seconds. Then she sighed. Mark, I thought she would have told you. Tell me what? That she left. Left. I almost laughed. She took everything. Jenna, that's not leaving, that's looting. She hesitated again, then said quietly, she's been seeing someone for a while. I don't know the details, but I guess they've been planning this. It felt like a steel rod slammed into my chest. So she took the money to, what? Start a new life within. Mark, I don't know. Where is she? I cut her off. Jenna went quiet again, then finally muttered, she's at an Airbnb in Harborview. That's all I know. That was enough. I hung up and pulled up Harborview on my phone 20 minutes away. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely type the address into the GPS. The drive felt unreal. My thoughts kept spinning between this can't be happening and she's been planning this for months. Every memory I had of the last year suddenly looked different in my head. The locked phone, the cold replies, the way she stopped talking about the future. When I pulled into the street near the Airbnb, I spotted her car instantly. Same vanity plate she insisted on getting. It was parked in the driveway of a little blue bungalow. I walked up the steps and knocked. No answer. I knocked again, louder. My chest was tight. My palms were sweating. Then the door opened. Rachel stood there, barefoot, holding a coffee mug. She looked refreshed. New haircut, nails done, wearing some flowy silk robe I'd never seen before. And the first thing out of her mouth wasn't why are you here, or let's talk. It was, well, I guess you found me. I stood there in the doorway, staring at her like she was a stranger. Maybe she was. Rachel, I finally said, where's my money? Where's my dog? Why is the house empty? She didn't flinch. She took a slow sip of coffee, set the mug down on a little side table, and leaned on the doorframe like we were discussing the weather. You make it sound so dramatic, she said. Mark, I left. I'm allowed to leave. Leave? My voice cracked. You drained every account, maxed the cards, sold the furniture, and took Marty. Her tone was flat. I took what I deserved. I managed that house for years while you were gone for weeks at a time. Do you think the bills paid themselves? Do you think the life we had just ran on autopilot? I earned that money. I blinked at her, stunned. You didn't earn it, Rachel. We built it together, and you stole it. She shrugged. You always loved to talk about we built this. We bought that, but the truth is, you were barely there. I just decided to stop waiting for you to notice. And the other man? I asked. My hands were trembling now. Jenna told me. That got the smallest flicker of a smile out of her. He's been there for me in ways you never were. He listens. He's present. He doesn't disappear for a paycheck. I took a step forward. So instead of asking for a divorce like a decent human being, you decided to wipe me out and vanish. Her eyes narrowed. A decent human being. Mark, you don't get to play the same here. You left me alone for years. You think that's marriage? That was for us, I snapped. I was out there working to make our lives better. She folded her arms. No, you were out there working to make yourself feel important. I just got tired of waiting for a life I actually wanted. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't even an apology. It was a mission statement cold, deliberate, practiced, like she'd been rehearsing it for months. I felt the weight of it settle on me. Rachel wasn't sorry. Not for the affair, not for the theft, not for leaving me with nothing but a locked door and a neighbor's pity. She was convinced she'd done the right thing. And that was somehow worse than the betrayal itself. I thought I reached the limit of what she could do to hurt me. I was wrong. After that doorway standoff, she finally stepped aside and let me in. The Airbnb was small, staged like a catalog, white walls, minimalist furniture, sunlight spilling in through spotless windows, not a single trace of our life together, no wedding photos, no Marley's toys, no knickknacks from trips we'd taken. I scanned the room. "Where's Marley?" I asked again. She didn't even look up from pouring herself another coffee with someone who actually has time for him. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? Rachel set the mun down, finally meeting my eyes. I gave him to my friend Claire. She has a yard, kids, time. You're never home, Mark, and I'm done playing the lonely housewife. I took a step toward her, my hands curling into fists to hit her, but to keep myself from shaking apart. "You gave away my dog." "Our dog," she corrected sharply. "And yes, he's happy there. You should be thanking me." I swear, in that moment, I forgot how to breathe. The house, the money, even the affair, all of it was a fire burning in the background. But Marley, that was the last thing holding me together, and she just cut it loose without blinking. I asked her, "Was any of this real for you? The years we spent together, the plans, the life we built?" She laughed, actually laughed. "Real, Mark. You talk like we were living some grand romance. We were roommates with a joint bank account, that's it." The words hit harder than any slap could. I wanted to yell. I wanted to demand she undo everything, give back the money, the dog, the years she'd stolen. But she was looking at me with this smug, bored expression that told me exactly how the fight would go. She'd twist it until I was the problem, until she was the victim. So I turned for the door. "Where are you going?" she called after me. "To figure out how to clean up the mess you left behind," I said without looking back. Her reply was ice cold. "Good luck with that. You'll need it." Walking down those steps felt like stepping out of a life I didn't recognize into one I never asked for. And the worst part, I knew she'd sleep just fine that night, while I lay awake, wondering how the hell to start over from nothing. I drove away from that Airbnb with my knuckles white on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead, because if I looked anywhere else, the familiar streets, the parks we used to walk Marley and it'd break. I didn't go back to my house. It wasn't my house anymore. Instead, I went to my friend Dan's place. He's been my go-to since college. The guy you call when your car breaks down, or your world does. He opened the door, took one look at me, and just said, "Come in." I dropped my suitcase in his living room and sat on the couch like a man who'd forgotten how to move. Dan didn't ask questions right away, just brought me a beer and let me sit in silence until I could talk. When I finally told him, I laid it all out: the new lock, the empty house, the zeroed-out accounts, Marley gone, the other man. Dan shook his head. "Jesus, Mark, that's not leaving someone, that's a heist." It was a well-planned, cold execution, and as much as the emotional betrayal gutted me, the logistics of it all made it worse. She'd clearly been preparing for months, closing things out under my nose, selling stuff in cash, moving money when she knew I was too far away to notice. I spent that night at Dan's spare room, but I didn't sleep. I stayed up making a list in my head: call the bank, contact a lawyer, cancel any joint accounts I hadn't thought of. Every time I crossed one thing off mentally, 3 more appeared. The next morning, I started making calls. The bank rep was polite, but blunt. "Sir, if the accounts were joint, she had equal access. There's nothing we can reverse unless you can prove fraud." Prove fraud? I almost laughed. The fraud was standing in an Airbnb sipping coffee in a silk robe while I begged to know where my dog was. The lawyer I spoke to was even more matter of fact. "This isn't just a divorce. This is asset division after one party has already liquidated everything. You're not getting it all back, but we can fight to recover some." Son. The word stuck with me all day. Some of my money, some of my things, but not Marley, not the years, not the trust. By evening, I realized I'd spent the last 36 hours in survival mode: calls, lists, logistics, because it kept me from thinking about what I'd lost. The moment I stopped moving, it all crashed in at once. She hadn't just taken my things, she'd taken the version of me that believed in her. And there was no getting him back. The days that followed felt like living in a fog. I'd wake up in Dan's spare room, and for a split second think I was back home, that Rachel was downstairs making coffee, Marley pawing at the door. Then reality would slam into me, like a freight train. I stopped checking her social media after the first week. The last time I looked, she'd already posted a picture with him, some guy I didn't recognize, standing in front of a beachfront bar, both of them holding cocktails. The caption read, "New chapter, new energy, new me, new her." I kept replaying all the times I'd been away for work, the nights I'd Saturday in some cramped hotel room, eating takeout and thinking about how I was doing it all for us, and all along, she was probably out with him. Dan tried to keep me busy. We hit the gym together, went out for beers, even caught a game, but the truth was, the moment I was alone, it all came rushing back. I finally called Jenna again, not because I wanted Rachel's side of the story, but because I needed closure on Marley. Jenna told me Rachel had taken him to some guy's farm out in the country, someone she knew through friends. She claimed Marley was thriving there. Thriving. I wanted to drive out there, demand my dog back, make it a fight, but the lawyer warned me it would be a waste of time and money, unless I could prove she'd abandoned him in a way that was harmful. She was too smart for that. She made sure every move she made was legally airtight, even if it was morally rotten. At night, I'd lie awake thinking about that last conversation in the Airbnb doorway. The way she didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't even try to justify much. She didn't need to. In her mind, she'd already moved on, and I was just a mess dented at the place she used to live. I realized something then. Rachel had left me. She'd left the man she thought I was, or maybe she left the man she'd convinced herself I was, so she could walk away without guilt. But here's the kicker: it wasn't that man. I was loyal. I was committed. I was building a future. She just didn't want it with me. Grief had been my shadow since the day I stood on the porch with a useless key in my hand, but anger, that took its time. When it came, it wasn't loud. It didn't come with shouting or breaking things. It was quiet, cold, and razor sharp, the kind of anger that makes you see every detail for what it really is. I started replaying our last year together in my head like a crime scene. Every "busy with work" was a meeting with him. Every "you don't need to come home early" was a calculated block to keep me away. Every moment she rolled her eyes when I mentioned our future, she'd already decided she wasn't going to be in it. The money part became a different kind of wound. It wasn't just the loss, it was the betrayal of trust so complete. It made me question every decision I'd made. I had let her manage everything, because I thought that's what partners did: divide responsibilities, rely on each other's strengths. She had weaponized that trust. One night, Dan and I were sitting in his living room, a game on the TV neither of us was watching. I told him, it's not even the cheating anymore. It's not even the money. It's that she looked me in the eye for years and made me believe I was safe. Dan nodded slowly. She's been planning this for a long time, man. That takes a certain kind of cold. That was Rachel now, not the woman I married. Not even the woman who argued with me when things got hard. This was someone stripped of warmth, reduced to ambition for herself at any cost. The more I thought about it, the more I realized there was nothing left to salvage. Not my marriage, not the money, not even the version of me that still wanted answers. I started to understand that I would never get closure from her, not because she didn't care, thought she didn't, but because in her mind, she hadn't done anything wrong. That's when I knew I had to stop looking back. If I kept trying to untangle the mess she left behind, I'd stay trapped in it. It was time to start building something new. Not to get over her, not to show her anything, but to prove to myself that she hadn't taken me with her when she walked out the door. Starting over wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a big movie moment where you suddenly feel free. It was exhausting. I got a small apartment on the other side of town, the kind with thin walls and a view of a parking lot. The first night there, I ate takeout straight from the container. sitting on the floor, because I didn't even have a table yet. The silence was heavy, but it was mine. My days became a list of practical steps: open new bank accounts, change passwords, redirect my email, meet with the lawyer again. It was tedious and unglamorous, but each task was a small act of taking my life back. Work kept me busy, but not enough to quiet my mind. Sometimes on my commute, I'd catch myself thinking, Rachel would like this neighborhood, before remembering she wasn't part of my life anymore. Those moments stung, but less each time. Marley was still the one piece I couldn't let go of. I thought about driving out to that farm, but my lawyer reminded me I'd risk trespassing charges. The logical part of me knew I had to let it go. The human part of me hated that logic. I reconnected with a few old friends Rachel never liked. One of them, Chris, put it bluntly over a beer. She didn't just leave, man. She wanted to erase you. Erase, the word stuck with me. She had taken our shared life and scrubbed me out like I was a typo in her story. But here's the thing about starting over: you get to write without them. I began setting small goals: cook at home 3 nights a week, go for a run twice a week, actually decorate my place, even if it was just second-hand furniture and a few plants. The apartment started to feel less like a pit stop and more like a home, and slowly, I noticed something. He wasn't checking her social media anymore. I wasn't replaying our last fight. I wasn't waking up with that instant punch of dread in my stomach. She had taken the house, the money, the dog, the years. But she hadn't taken the part of me that could rebuild. It's been months since the day I stood in front of my unlocked door, with a useless key in my hand. Months since I walked away from that Airbnb and the woman who looked at me like I was just an inconvenience, interrupting her coffee. The anger has cooled, but it's still there like an old scar. You can press on and remember exactly how you got it. The grief is quieter now, less of a roar and more of a hum in the background. I never got Marley back. That's the one part that still hits like a sucker punch, but I've stopped letting it keep me frouncing. I picture him running on that farm, tail wagging, blissfully unaware of the human wreckage behind him. Maybe that's enough. I've learned something about betrayal. It's not just about what they take from you. It's about the lies they make you live in before they leave. For years, I thought Rachel and I were building something together. Turns out, I was building while she was quietly packing her bags. When people ask now, I don't give them the messy details. I just say, she left, and I started over. That's all they need to know. The rest is mine to carry, mine to learn from. And I did learn. I learned that trust is precious, but it's also fragile. That love isn't enough if it's only moving in one direction. And that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not to forgive, not to get revenge, but to take back the story they tried to end for you. I filled my apartment with things I chose, not things we bought together. I've made new routines, met new people, even started dating again to replace her. But because life moves forward, whether you're ready or not. Rachel is a ghost now. She's out there somewhere, probably still telling herself she did the right thing. But she doesn't get to define me anymore. She thought she could lock me out of my own life. She was wrong. I'm back inside. And this time, the key is mine alone. And the first